It was supposed to be a peaceful afternoon, just me and my daughter Maya, cruising through the picture-perfect streets of Oakwood Estates. The HOA had everything looking like a magazine spread, lawns trimmed to military precision, mailboxes all the same shade of beige, no rogue dandelions daring to show their faces. I lived here for years, ever since Dad passed and left the family house to me, or so I thought. Mom, Linda, the elected HOA president, kept reminding everyone how she was just looking out for the community. Maya hummed along to the radio in the passenger seat, her little sneakers tapping the glove box, excited about seeing Grandma. She loved the cookies and the stories. The way Grandma always slipped her extra snacks I usually vetoed. We turned on a Mom Street, the big colonial at the end with a brass HOA president plaque gleaming like a crown. Something in my chest tightened. Maybe the gathering clouds. Maybe that mother's instinct that never lies. Then I saw it. Mark's truck, parked right in the driveway, like it owned the place. That dent on the rear bumper. The custom decal on the back window. No mistaking it. He was supposed to be at a client meeting across town. Button-down shirt and cologne. Kissing my cheek with a "wish me luck, babe." I slowed the car and pulled over across the street. Maya looked up from her tablet. Mom, aren't we going in? I forced a smile that felt like plastic. Not yet. Sweetheart, Grandma might be resting. I'll just check real quick. Stay here. Okay. She nodded, legs still swinging as I slipped out and eased the door shut. My hands were ice. The house looked too quiet. Curtains drawn tight, something Mom never did during daylight hours because, as she loved lecturing at board meetings, sunlight is community pride. I crept along the side of the house, grass whispering under my shoes instead of the crunchy gravel that would rat me out. The living room window was cracked open just enough. Voices drifted out. Mama Mark. At first I told myself it was nothing. Maybe he was helping with some HOA paperwork. Maybe I'd forgotten he mentioned it. But then I heard my name. Claire doesn't need to know everything, Mark said, voice low and calm like he was discussing the weather. She's my daughter, Mom whispered back. I raised her. I can't just, you've already come this far, he cut in. You think she's going to forgive either of us once she finds out? We finished what we started. That's what we agreed. My mouth went dry. Knees almost buckled. They sounded like partners in crime, not mother-in-law and son-in-law. I pressed against the siding, heart slamming so hard I was sure they'd hear it. Their voices stayed low, but the pieces landed like bricks. Not a misunderstanding, not a simple favor, a full-blown betrayal. My ears rang. The ground felt like it was tilting. I didn't want to hear more, but I couldn't move. They kept talking, cool and calculated, like I was the idiot who'd never catch on. Then Mark's tone shifted, intimate, familiar in a way that made my stomach flip. You worry too much. Linda, the fines are working. Another couple months of aesthetic violations, and she'll be begging to sell. We'll have the house free and clear. Mom laughed softly. That polished HOA president laugh she used at meetings when she was about to crush someone. The dandelion fine alone was genius. And that chalk on the driveway? Maya's artistic terrorism, I called it in the notice. Claire's too busy being the perfect mom to fight back. They were using the HOA, Mom's kingdom of rules, to bleed me dry. Grass 0.1 inch too long, $250. Bike left out past 6 p.m., $150. One yellow flower in the approved beds, unauthorized color palette, $300. All selective. All aimed at my house, while the rest of the neighborhood got polite warnings. And Mark was helping her fix things late at night. The affair wasn't even hidden in their voices now. The way he said her name. The way she sighed like she'd been waiting for him all day. I pressed my hands to my thighs to stop the shaking. A loud clatter behind me. Maya dropped her tablet in the car. I jolted. If they heard, it was over. I spun and walked fast. Almost ran. Back to the car. climbed in smiling like nothing happened. "Everything okay?" Maya asked, blinking up at me. I nodded, engine rumbling to life. "Grandma's busy. Sweetheart, we'll come back another day." The entire drive home, one sentence echoed in my skull. I should have seen the signs. Maya sang quietly in the back seat. I kept checking the rearview mirror. Face calm on the outside while inside, I unraveled like cheap yarn. The last few months had been a slow drip of weirdness I'd ignored, because who suspects their own mother and husband of teaming up to destroy them? It started with the fines. First, a polite letter about the mailbox flag being 2 inches too wide. Then the grass inspection, where Mom herself showed up with her little silver tape measure, clipboard in hand, smiling that tight Karen smile. "It's for the community. Claire dear, standards matter." I'd laughed it off at first. Everyone grumbled about HOA rules. But the fines kept coming, only at my address. Neighbors whispered I was the problem homeowner, the one bringing down property values. Mom never missed a board meeting to remind them. Mark's affection had cooled too. No more goofy selfies from work. No more hugs from behind while I cooked. He came home smelling like fresh soap and Mom's lavender hand lotion instead of sawdust. "Busy with clients," he'd say. That lopsided grin I used to love now, looking practiced. One night, he had a tiny scrape on his hand. "Helped your mom with some board repairs," he shrugged. "She didn't want to bother you." I'd smiled then, thinking it was sweet. Now the memory tasted like poison. Maya had even asked once, "Why does Daddy go to Grandma's without us?" Mark's answer, "Grown-up HOA stuff. Kiddo. Boring." I let it slide. Grief after Dad. New responsibilities. People change. Right? Wrong. Standing at that window, I finally connected every dot. The late-night board calls he took outside. The text from Elle that he swiped away fast. Linda from the HO, and the way Mom rushed me out the door the last time I dropped by unannounced. Wearing slippers and no makeup like she just rolled out of bed with company. I told myself I was overthinking. Now I knew I'd been blind. That night, I lay in bed beside Mark. His back turned, breathing steady like he hadn't just shattered my world. I stared at the ceiling, cold and numb, deciding right then, no screaming, no confrontation. Not yet. I would watch. I would wait. And when I struck, the HOA Karen who called herself my mother would never see it coming. The next morning the house smelled like waffles and strawberries because Maya had demanded breakfast for dinner the night before. We made a glorious mess in the kitchen, laughing while syrup dripped and blueberries made smiley faces on pancakes. For a few hours, everything felt almost normal. Mark sat across the table, scrolling his phone, barely looking up. When Maya chattered, he grunted, eyes never leaving the screen. I noticed. She noticed. After dishes, while I wiped the counter, Maya doodled hearts on a napkin and looked up with those big brown eyes. "Mom, is Daddy Grandma's favorite person now?" The sponge slipped from my hand into the soapy sink. I turned slowly, drying my hands like it was the most casual thing in the world. "Why would you ask that?" "Sweetheart," she shrugged, chewing her lip. "Well, he goes there a lot, and they talk like secret friends. Grandma smiles more when he's around, more than she does with you." I couldn't breathe. Those innocent words hit harder than any fine. I tucked a curl behind her ear and said softly, "They're just grown-ups talking about boring HOA stuff." She nodded, satisfied, and went back to drawing. But inside I was shaking. That night, after she was asleep, I stood in the hallway staring at our bedroom door. Mark was inside, half-dressed, watching something on his laptop with headphones. I moved like a ghost, calm on the surface. When he went to shower, the water roaring, I opened his drawer. I wasn't sure what I was hunting for until my fingers brushed a folded paper tucked into the back of his passport sleeve. I unfolded it with trembling hands. Notarized. Legal. My mother's signature at the bottom beside Mark's. A transfer of ownership agreement for Dad's, my house. Except my name was nowhere. It had been quietly moved to a private LLC Mark controlled, and clipped to it was an internal HOA memo, pending lien foreclosure for repeated aesthetic violations. Property to be auctioned at reserve price to approved buyer. Handwritten note in pencil, filed. She still has no idea. I dropped the paper like it burned. Knees gave out. I sat on the bed, world spinning. They hadn't just lied. They planned it. Mom using her president power to slap selective fines that would trigger the lien clause she herself wrote into the covenants last year. Mark helping with the paperwork. The affair was just the glue holding their greed together. I thought of every time Mom had stood at a podium preaching community standards, tape measure in hand, finding Mrs. Johnson for a single dandelion while ignoring her own secret pool addition that violated every setback rule. Hypocrisy so thick you could spread it on toast. I didn't confront that day. I just needed more. I started paying attention in ways they never expected. Every morning, I checked the mailbox before Mark could. I photographed every violation notice, only mine. I quietly recorded board meetings on my phone when Mom announced special enforcement initiatives that somehow targeted only my address. The neighbors started avoiding eye contact at the community picnic. Sorry about the fines. Claire, one whispered. Your mom's just strict. Strict. That was the polite word for tyrant. Mom's texts came more often now. Random check-ins. How's Maya? Need anything from a store? Forced. Guilty. I answered with perfect daughter cheer, while inside I cataloged every lie. Mark still kissed my forehead in the mornings, still left in his brown boots, still sent one-word replies, busy, call later. But now I saw the double check on his phone, the hesitation when I mentioned visiting Mom. One evening, I overheard him on the back porch. Linda, the lien paperwork is almost ready. 2 more fines, and the bank will move. Then we're free. Mom's voice through the speaker. Just keep her distracted. I'll handle the board vote. I saved the recording. My hands didn't shake anymore. They were steady. Because now I had dates, signatures, voice files. The people who raised me and loved me had decided I was an obstacle to their new life. And they'd used the HOA, the sacred covenant of Oakwood Estates, to do it. I kept cooking dinner, taking Maya to school, laughing at Mark's bad jokes, smiling on video calls with Mom. But every night, I sat in the dark after Maya was asleep, adding to my folder of evidence. The betrayal wasn't just the affair or the house. It was the way they'd turned the neighborhood I grew up in into their private piggy bank. And the funniest part, the darkest, most laugh-until-you-cry part, was that Mom still patrolled the streets every Saturday with her little tape measure, measuring grass like it was the most important job in America, while she was busy stealing her own daughter's future. I almost pitted the other homeowners who lived in fear of her clipboard. Almost. Because soon they'd see what real enforcement looked like. Sunday rolled around again, and the air smelled like fresh-cut grass and hypocrisy. Mom had called an emergency board meeting for urgent covenant updates, and of course my name was on the agenda. Another fine for unauthorized children's toys visible from street. Maya's bike had been out for 20 minutes while she rode it. I sat in the back row of the community center, smiling politely while Mom stood at the podium in her pressed pantsuit, voice dripping concern. We must maintain standards. Everyone. One violation leads to another. Think of property values. The room murmured agreement. No one dared challenge the HOA Karen. After the meeting, I drove straight to Mom's house with a bag of Maya's outgrown clothes, an excuse I'd use 100 times. She opened the door smiling that same polished smile. Claire, darling, tea. I nodded. We sat at the kitchen table where she used to braid my hair, where we decorated cookies for Maya's birthdays. Now it felt like a crime scene. I waited until the teacups were full. Mom, can I ask you something? She looked up, surprised but still composed. Of course. I met her eyes. Please don't lie to me. Not today. I need the truth. Her lips parted. Then her shoulders dropped. She knew. I slid the folded, notarized paper across the table, the one I'd taken from Mark's drawer that morning. Her signature. Mark's. The LLC. The lien memo. She stared for a long time. Tears welled but didn't fall. I want to tell you, she whispered. I was going to. You forged my future, I said quietly. You used the HOA to bankrupt me, so you and Mark could buy my house at auction. She nodded slowly. It was never truly in your name. Claire, your father left it to me legally. I told you he wanted you to have it, and he did. But when Mark showed up with the offer, he was just helping at first. Repairs. Board work. After your dad died, I felt invisible. He listened. Her voice cracked. It wasn't supposed to go this far. The fines were supposed to be small nudges. But the more we lied, the deeper it got. I sat in silence, thinking of every bedtime story she ever read me about family being everything. All eyes. How long? I asked. A little over a year. The affair. The plotting. The selective enforcement while she ignored her own illegal backyard gazebo. You decided to ruin mine because you felt lonely? She covered her mouth, sobbing now. I never wanted to hurt you. But the lies, once they start, you can't stop. I stood slowly. I won't scream. I won't cry. I just want you to know I see you now. The real you. And I'll never forget this version. She reached for me. I stepped back. I don't hate you. But I'm done protecting people who don't protect me. I walked out without slamming the door. Calm. Controlled. Because the explosion was coming. But not yet. Mark didn't expect me in the driveway that morning. He was loading tools into his truck like any ordinary Tuesday. I stepped out of my car, closed the door softly. He turned, eyebrows raised. Hey, didn't expect you so early. I looked him dead in the eye. I know everything. I held up the paper, let it flutter to the ground between us. The affair. The forged transfer. The HOA lien scam to steal my house. His face tightened. For a second, the smugness cracked. Then he rubbed the back of his neck with that shrug I used to find charming. So what now? I smiled, small and sharp. You lose. I pulled out my phone. Lawyers already seen this. Coercion. Fraud. Abuse of fiduciary duty as HOA president. One call and the county opens an investigation. Plus I sent copies to the entire board. Your own rules say the president can't have financial interest in properties under enforcement. His smirk died. You wouldn't. Try me. I slid the second envelope across the hood of his truck. This is the formal dispute I filed this morning. The lien is frozen. Your little LLC is now under review. And Mom's getting a visit from the state HOA oversight board about selective enforcement. Turns out recording board meetings is perfectly legal. He took a step forward, voice dropping. Claire, it wasn't planned. She was lonely. I was lonely. You pulled away. I laughed. Short and bitter. Funny how you never mentioned loneliness when I was doing your laundry and staying up with Maya's nightmares. I stepped closer. Walk away. Mark. From a house. From me. From all of it. Because this is the last time I'll let either of you leave with any dignity. He didn't say another word. Just stare at the papers on the ground as I turned and drove away. That evening I sat on the porch of the small rental I'd quietly secured weeks ago, watching Maya draw chalk hearts on the sidewalk. She didn't know the full story yet. One day I'd tell her carefully, so she'd understand fighting for yourself doesn't mean becoming bitter. Mom hadn't called. Mark hadn't called. The silence was beautiful. I looked up at the sky, took a deep breath. I didn't have a marriage. I didn't have the perfect HOA-approved lawn anymore. But I had my daughter. I had my truth. I had the satisfaction of knowing the mighty HOA Karen was about to lose her clipboard, her title, and her reputation in front of the entire neighborhood. And most importantly, I had peace. No one, not even the president of Oakwood Estates, could steal that from me. But the best part was still coming. The emergency HOA meeting was called for Friday night. Special session regarding covenant enforcement irregularities, the email read. Everyone showed up. The community center was packed. Neighbors who'd been fined for breathing wrong. Homeowners who'd lived in fear of Mom's tape measure. I sat in the front row this time. Folder in my lap. Phone ready. Mom took the podium in her power pantsuit. Smile tight. We're here to address recent complaints, she began, voice smooth as ever. Some residents feel enforcement has been inconsistent. Murmurs rippled. I stood. The room went quiet. Actually, Mom, we're here because you and Mark have been using the HOA as your personal piggy bank. Gasps. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I played the first recording, Mark's porch call. The lien paperwork is almost ready. 2 more fines and the bank will move. Then the board memo with her signature authorizing the selective fines only on my property. Then the notarized transfer documents. The room exploded in whispers. Mom's face drained of color. Claire, this is a misunderstanding. No, I said calmly. This is fraud. You use your position to bankrupt your own daughter so you and my husband could buy the house cheap after the lien foreclosure, while preaching about dandelions and mailbox flags, while ignoring your own illegal backyard addition that violates 3 separate rules you wrote yourself. I held up photos, time-stamped, of her gazebo, her unapproved pool fence, the president-only parking spot she used for Mark's truck. The board members shifted in their seats. One older man who'd been fined last year for a political flag stood up. Is this true, Linda? Mom stammered. It was never supposed to. I cut her off with the final recording, her own voice on the phone with Mark, laughing about Claire's aesthetic terrorism and how the affair made everything easier. The room went dead silent. Then chaos. Board members demanded her resignation on the spot. Neighbors who'd been terrified of her for years suddenly found their voices. You fined me $200 for a garden gnome, someone shouted, while you were sleeping with your daughter's husband? Mom's perfect Karen facade cracked completely. She clutched the podium. Tears real this time. But no one cared. The vote was unanimous. She was removed effective immediately. State oversight was notified. The lien on my house was voided. The forged transfer nullified. Dad's wishes, my house, were finally mine in every legal sense. Mark was waiting outside when I walked out. He looked smaller. Claire, save it, I said. The lawyer already served you. Community Property Division starts Monday. You can keep the truck. I'll keep the house you try to steal. He didn't argue, just turned and walked away. That night, Maya and I sat on our own porch, my porch, eating ice cream straight from the carton. No HOA rules about proper dessert containers. She looked up at me. Mom, is Grandma still the president? I smiled. No, sweetheart. Grandma decided to retire from that job. Maya grinned, chocolate on her nose. Good. She was kind of mean about my bike. I laughed, really laughed for the first time in months. The dark humor of it all hit me then. The woman who spent years measuring grass blades to the millimeter had finally been measured herself and found wanting. The neighborhood WhatsApp group blew up with screenshots of the meeting. HOA Karen dethroned. Justice served with a side of receipts. Some even sent me apology casseroles. I accepted them all, because the sweetest revenge wasn't just winning the house. It was watching the entire community that once feared her suddenly realize the emperor had no clothes and no more tape measure. Mom tried one last text a week later. I'm sorry. Can we talk? I read it, then blocked the number. Some apologies come too late. Some Karens learn the hard way that the rules they loved enforcing could be turned right back on them. And me? I finally mowed my lawn exactly how I wanted, dandelions and all. Maya drew chalk masterpieces on the driveway that stretched for yards. The HOA sent a new president, a quiet accountant who actually read the covenants instead of weaponizing them. Life in Oakwood Estates felt free. I sat on the porch swing one golden evening, Maya asleep inside, and raised my glass of cheap wine to the sky. "Here's to you, Dad," I whispered. "You always said family was everything. Turns out sometimes you have to fire the family to keep the house." The wind rustled the trees like it was laughing with me. Somewhere across the neighborhood, the former HOA Karen was probably measuring her own regrets with that little silver tape. And I was finally, gloriously, at peace. No more fines. No more lies. Just me, Maya, and a lawn full of dandelions that no one could ever take away again. The final chapter wrote itself in the most deliciously petty way possible. 2 months later, the State Oversight Board finished their audit. Mom was officially banned from ever holding any HOA position again, anywhere. Turns out forging documents and using public office for personal gain doesn't play well in the suburbs. The local news even picked it up. Local HOA president removed after family fraud scandal. They blurred her face, but everyone in Oakwood Estates knew. Neighbors who once nodded politely now crossed the street to avoid her. The same people who used to whisper standards matter now whispered karma's a better enforcer than Linda ever was. Mark moved out quietly. I kept the house, refinanced on my own, and turned Dad's old study into a playroom for Maya. No more secret phone calls. No more late-night board meetings. Just us. The best part, the moment that still makes me smile every time I drive past Mom's house, was the yard sale she held last weekend. She was out front with a folding table, selling off her collection of clipboards, tape measures, and those little laminated rule cards she used to hand out like communion wafers. I slowed the car just enough for her to see me. Our eyes met. For the first time in her life, the HOA Karen had nothing to say. No polite smile. No for the community speech. Just a woman who'd lost everything she tried to steal from someone else. I gave her the tiniest nod, the kind she used to give when she approved a compliant mailbox, and kept driving. Maya away from the back seat, completely unaware of the history. "Look, Mom, Grandma's selling her ruler." I laughed so hard I almost cried. "Yeah, baby. She finally learned some things can't be measured." Back home, I planted a single bright yellow dandelion right in the front yard, right where she used to stand with her clipboard. I watered it personally. The new HOA president sent me a friendly note. "We've updated the covenants. Wildflowers are now encouraged." Progress. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor sharper than any Karen sarcasm. I sat on the porch that night, Maya curled up beside me with her head on my shoulder, and watched the fireflies dance over my perfectly imperfect lawn. The betrayals still stung if I let it, but mostly it felt like a story I'd survived, a story I'd won. The woman who raised me had tried to take everything, my husband, my house, my peace, using the pettiest rules in America as her weapon. Instead, she lost the only thing that ever really mattered, respect. And I gained something better. I gained my voice. I gained my backbone. I gained the knowledge that no clipboard, no fine, no secret affair could ever break a mother who finally decided to fight back. So if you ever find yourself living under an HOA Karen who smiles while she measures your grass and steals your future, remember this. Stay quiet. Gather proof. Then serve the receipts at the next board meeting with a side of sunshine and a dandelion smile. Because the most glorious downfall isn't loud. It's the moment the tyrant realizes the neighborhood she ruled is now laughing at her yard sale. And you're the one with the house, the daughter, and the perfectly legal wildflowers. Justice, it turns out, tastes even sweeter than Grandma's cookies ever did. And no one, not even the former president of Oakwood Estates, can fine you for that.